Hey friends, welcome to the library. Today I have with me author Candy Usher. Is that correct? Usher.
Yes. Good morning,
Yay!
everybody.
So excited. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into writing, how long you've been writing.
My name is Candy Usher. I just turned 40 on yesterday. So,
Happy
new,
belated.
thank you. New year, new decade. I called it my 40 and fine, and not on a beauty standard, but fine as far as I just came out of a divorce and the girl is thriving. Her second
Yes.
one, and she is thriving. She is healed. She has let a lot of things and people go. So she's on that level now. She's speaking her mind. So she already knows she's not everybody's cup of tea, and she's okay with that. I tell everybody, I'm no longer anybody's cup of tea. I'm a cup of coffee now. No cream, no sugar. I'm bitter now. So, with that being said, I have three sons. I am a Navy veteran. I served for 8 years. Um, I am a daughter. I have a very annoying little brother who is 2 years younger than me. I'm from a very small city. My parents were both Air Force. I was born in Virginia, but I grew up in Georgia. Um, Lots of cousins, aunts, uncles, both sides of the family really, really large. Um, First duty station in California, where I met the most amazing ladies in the world. And these women are still my friends now. My longest friendship will be 30 years in 2 years, and she has been
Wow.
my bestie since middle school. Her and my other best friend, my twin, that's what I call her, Jessica, her birthday is today. So I turned 40 yesterday. She turned 40 today. My other 30-year best friend turns 40 in October. So we're
Wow.
all in there together. Um,
Yeah.
I started writing when I was 8, but I've been
Mhm.
reading since I was 4 or 5 years old. I've
Mhm.
always loved books. I've had the largest imagination ever. So a book is not just a book to me.
Mhm.
It's a separate place to go to when the reality of the world needs to be escaped for a little bit. I started off with poetry. That was the first thing I wrote. And you remember poetry.com? I
Mhm.
entered those often, and I actually won a few of them. The
Wow.
first one I won a first place prize and 150 bucks. You're giving $150 to like a 10-year old.
Mhm.
That. But that was right then and there. It let me know that I had something to say, but I just needed to learn how to develop it. So
Mhm.
one of my favorite classes is English and literature. Though I didn't major in English and literature, I like English and literature.
Yep.
I like the pointing out the subject verb agreement and the adjectives and defining words. And my children picked that up. So when they were 2, 3, 4 years old, they could tell you what a word meant, even if they couldn't spell it. They understood the context of the sentence, and they were able to go with it from there. Surprised me a lot. Very intelligent young men.
Yep.
Um, so I love that. And my first book I wrote in 2017 called, at first it was called Bondage, about my first marriage
Okay.
and what I went through from being a teenager to an adult, and some of dealing with a narcissistic parent, and some of dealing with a parent with mental illness, and how hard it is sometimes. I don't think people understand some behaviors that some kids have, especially in their teenage years. We focus on the child, and a lot of times we might not go back towards the parents. and what's actually going on in the home that creates those behaviors, which is one of the reasons why I am 12 weeks from graduating with my bachelor's in psychology. With
Yay!
I know, with a concentration in mental health counseling, um, because that's my focus for because of what I went through.
Hmm.
And at that age, I did not have um, that door opened for me. And at that time, I needed it. And I think that would have kept me from a lot of the decisions that I made during that time. Speaking of, I changed the name of the book to I'm Still Standing Here. You will like it. You will enjoy it. It will change your life. It will change really how you look at things. And then my next book after that was Chocolate Shop. And it is a Christian romance. Also free. All my books are free on Kindle Unlimited.
Ooh.
It is about a chocolatier and a basketball player and finding love. But he's got a little ex girlfriend who doesn't like that idea at all.
Ooh.
So, yeah. And then there's that one. After Chocolate Shot, there is My Forever Angel. And it's the story of my son, Junior, who passed away at 10 weeks. Um, this is from my second marriage. A lot of issues started off in that marriage, and I stayed in it way too long. And this is where My Forever Angel and my book, Delusional When I Lost My Mind in Love, both of those books stem from that marriage. And again, dealing with two narcissistic men. And the realization as I went through therapy from losing my son and then therapy from dealing with my second ex-husband, that a hole inside of me never healed from the relationship that I lost with my mom. And I was marrying men, I was dating a lot of men, looking for something to heal that, because I wanted the relationship that I wanted to have with my mom, but at the same time, I wanted to be loved like my dad loved me. Well, that's a conflict because I'm a daddy's girl. I'll tell anybody that 100% daddy's girl. If I go to my dad, 99% of the time, he gonna cover it for me. But it's the whole thing of while wanting that love, translating what I did with my mom and losing that at 11, 12 years old, I needed
Hmm.
that whole filled and I was feeling it the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's what I said I'm 40 and fine because I figured out how to deal with that hole. And no guy is going to feel it unless you talk
Hmm.
about Jesus. Jesus is the only one who can fill that hole. If it ain't Jesus, that hole is going to stay. And I had to renew that relationship.
Hmm.
I had to get back on par with that relationship with God. God kept me through 90 days of jail that I wasn't even supposed to be in.
Mm.
All charges dropped. He kept me through a L5S1 laminectomy and discectomy 10 years ago in my lower back, through 3 C-sections, 3 suicide attempts, and I'm still standing here.
Hmm.
I should be gone, but I'm here. But at some point, we have to get to the point of where we're just like, you know what I'm doing isn't working. I got to have some help. And for those who don't believe in God, cease some therapy, get some
Hmm.
counseling. I promise you, I am in the process. I am about to work on getting my license to start counseling. And so I can start getting hours. Preferably, I am going to have some funds come through so I can do my PhD because my heart wants to help so
Hmm.
much. I see so many women hurting, parents, especially veterans. We don't have the care that we should have for
Mm-mm.
mental health. And a lot of suicides are occurring because of that, because they're giving us therapists or counselors or psychologists or psychiatrists, and we're being fed medication, but none of them truly really understand what we've gone through.
Hmm.
And they don't advocate enough. Hey, you're a veteran. We're open up this program, and I wish they would. And I'm trying to figure out how to write it up because it's been heavy on my heart, and I really want to do it. Where I can write up a proposal and send it to the Secretary of Defense or to somebody here in the state, and it goes up, that you create a mental health program for those veterans who do not have very severe mental health issues to be able to go through training to be a therapist or a counselor or a life coach, and you all actually pay for that,
Yeah.
and they're able to go back out and help other. We already get offers for stuff to do, open our own businesses for almost every single state. So it wouldn't take much for us to open our own businesses and
Hmm.
contract back out to the VA. That costs less for the VA at the end of the day. And you actually have people who have experience who can relate to your veterans, and they can actually help them get through some things because a lot of them suffer from PTSD. A lot of them have traumatic brain injuries. A lot of them are bipolar. And we're not going to talk about the narcissists that come out of there and end up in the police department and the fire department. And some of
Hmm.
them end up in your medical field. And now you're just like, I know at the VA, we don't want them touching this.
Yeah.
And now you're going to send them out into the civilian world?
Mm.
No.
Yeah, it makes my heart hurt too.
Yeah, and I hate it. And it's as a veteran myself and seeing how we are treated medically, it sucks so bad. I don't regret my service. I regret what has come after my service.
My I have some family members. My great grandfather, may he rest in peace. He was the presidential pilot for a couple services. Granted, he was 80 something when he passed, so it's been a while. He passed probably nearly 5 years, 6 years ago, somewhere
Okay.
around there.
Yeah.
So Nixon board era is where he was kind of in, and his kids, military brats, they moved a lot. Some of his kids went into the military, and their kids were military brats, and just, you know, even though he was my great grandfather, I could see there was this we don't ask Hawkeye about certain things. We don't ask certain questions. You know, and he was one of those, like, he got personalized signed cards from the presidents, Christmas cards and things. Like,
Wow.
he had plenty of pictures, went to plenty of Christmas dinners, those sort of things. And even then, I mean, there were some instances where he was flying through combat zones, and it just was what it was. You didn't ask him questions.
Yeah.
Um, I had the pleasure of going, actually having him come down, because whenever at the time when he was alive, he lived about an hour away from where my family was. But
Okay.
my grandmother, his daughter, one of his youngest, she actually married a man who went into the military, and so their kid, my dad was not quite a military brat because my grandfather had gotten out by then, but it was the same thing. Like he got done and he went into the medical field.
Yeah.
And even then, like my grandfather's in his 70s and we don't ask him a lot of
Interesting
in
things.
detail questions. Yeah. It's just one of those, like he'll tell you, yes, I served, I'm proud that I served.
Yeah.
My life was a little bit different. And of course the world was different back then.
Very much.
Um,
Very
was
different.
he's in his late 70s, so it was just different. But even now it's very much like I got to talk to my great grandfather. I got to ask him to come to a veterans brunch we did when I was in middle school.
Hmm.
um, and it was just one of those, like, he was sitting in a room full of like-minded people, so he was able
Yeah.
to open up a little bit and go, I started as boots on the ground and worked my way up into, being personal pilot for the president
Interesting. Yeah.
for many years. And so I had never heard any of that, and as a 10, 11 year old, you immediately get these stars in your eyes.
Yeah.
And now looking back, I can go, I had those stars in my eyes, and so did a lot of my friends because their family were there. But if you peel that away, I can also see a lot of the hurt.
Yeah.
My
The
grandmother
feeling
was
of
born in the
abandonment. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother was born in the Panama City Canal. So technically it's US zone.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
But
technically
it's a
US
danger
zone.
zone, especially during that time.
Yeah, so but
Well,
it was
that
a
wasn't
danger
safe at
zone,
all.
and it was a danger zone. And when her family moved her to the States and they were trying to set up for her to collect all of her stuff after she finally retired from being a lifelong nurse,
Yeah.
she didn't technically have a birth certificate. She didn't technically have a social security number. There were all these legalities about being in and out. She was like, I feel like I'm being punished for my dad being who he
In the
was.
military. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just hurt me even more because I was like, how many other people have this same situation? Because, like, I know right now Guantanamo Bay is a huge US soil base,
Yeah.
and it's not even like, how many legalities are you sitting on if you're born on a US base, that kind of thing. What does it look like if you decide to come back to the States, or you're forced back into the States and they
Yeah.
switch your base?
And it's
You
hard.
know,
It's really hard,
yeah.
especially for when you start, like you said, talking about not just spouses, but when you start talking about the effect it has on the kids.
Hmm.
I have watched, I call him my nephew. He was a guy that I was stationed with, son. I became attached to his wife because he had to deploy. So I took care of her. I watched over here while he was on his deployment, stuff like that. I was there for her. So me and her became really close friends. And I look at my nephew, and it's just like I can see the hurt for him because they're all the way in Virginia and he's all the way in Cali.
Yeah.
Or like my last YN1 at my Cali command before I left and got stationed in Virginia. He's had to leave his daughter in one state for 6 years so she can graduate with her friends because moving around hurt so much. And
Hmm.
it's crazy we're talking about this now because my dad and I were just talking about this on Wednesday. And we were just talking about how he got out after 6 years because he didn't want that to happen with myself and my brother. Where we bounced around and bounced around and bounced around, and we never ended up in a place where we were really, truly stable.
Hmm.
Because the military will do you like that. When I left A school in Mississippi, they give you a sheet and you say what duty stations you want to go to. Everything I picked was on the East Coast because my oldest son was in Georgia at the time. They sent me straight to California. What are you doing? Now, had
Hmm.
I not gone to California, I wouldn't have met the amazing people that I did. So there's that. But I really wanted to stay on the East Coast because This is where my child is. This is where my family is. This is where my help is. Now we
Mhm.
start talking about Vietnam War, World War One, World War Two, the Korean War, what happened on D-Day. And we start talking to these men and women who experienced it. A
Mhm.
lot of them will not go for any kind of psychological help
Mhm.
because because of the time that they grew up in. That's taboo.
Yeah, it was different. So different.
You don't talk about it. You
Mm-mm.
man up. But
Yeah.
while you're manning up, it's the fun part of studying psychology. You find out you're degenerating your brain.
Hmm.
It has an effect on your brain wave pattern.
Yep. And and for anybody who's not in the military, when you get to this point, it's suppressing feelings. It's suppressing anything that's hurt you. So, for example, my husband, when he was younger, he had a lot of young girls that were not faithful to him. And when he found out, he teared up as a young man. And one of his girlfriends was sitting there and basically told him that he was, um,
A punk.
yeah, a
So
punk.
many words. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like females
unless,
like that
and
at all. I can't
yeah,
stand it.
it was so bad. And for me to hear that as someone who's been through the same thing, and I'm very much an emotional person, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I have a big heart. I want to care for others. And it, it's one of those, we've been together since 2018. We split up a little bit. We got back together and now we're married. We've been married 2 years and we've done a lot of growth in these years. And it's been a lot of emotional growth, especially for him, um, learning that he has a safe place with me because I'm a crier. I'm a hugger. I'm a crier. I want you to get it out. I would rather sit here and harp over it as many times as we need to, and you unleash however many different feelings you're finding buried than for you to suppress it and really just not be able to figure out what it is. Because part of the first time I ever saw him cry was within the last month when we had one of our dogs get put down.
Wow.
And it was one of like I had seen a couple tears when we did our split a few years ago before we got married, but I had never seen him full on like just ugly cry and get it out. And it was one of those, I told him, I was like, an ugly cry is therapeutic.
It
Whether or
is.
not you feel like it, whether or not you feel like therapy has helped you because you've been in the past and you don't want to return, I said, that's okay. You find therapy and whatever else you need. Um, a way for you to sit with those emotions and really revel in them. But this cry here let off more than you thought it did because you didn't
Yeah.
realize you were as connected. You didn't realize you felt the way you did. And now those things are coming to light. You can get them off your chest because in the later on down the road, we can talk about it and it won't hurt as much. Now it's not, I'm not saying it's not going to hurt
Yeah. It's just not going to
because
hurt as much.
it's always going to hurt. Whether that's a grandparent's death, a parent's death, a friend's death, a significant other, a dog,
Child
whatever the case,
identity is
yeah,
the
whatever the
worst
case
you
is.
can deal with because it's like that's somebody who came from you.
Hmm.
You know, you have your parent, they made you. You have
Yeah.
they create, but your child, you created your child.
Hmm.
For parents who go through miscarriage, I've been there.
Hmm.
I've had a child born and had to give him back to God. I have friends who battle with infertility. And especially you're talking about going through that and the military still expects you to come back to work. Like
Hmm.
nothing happened.
Yeah, a lot of places do. The military
Where
is
is your
one, but they're.
empathy?
Hmm.
You do not care that I just mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually went through some of the worst things my entire life could go through.
Hmm.
And I'm supposed to just come back. That was my issue that I had with the Navy. and why I was ready to get out after it happened. Because people expect other people, because they can suppress their emotions, that other people should be able to be the same way. Well, let me tell you what happens when you suppress your emotions. Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure changes,
Hmm.
you have headaches and migraines, your ears begin to hurt, you have neck and back pain because your muscles are clenched so hard because your body can't relax because it's holding those emotions. Your stomach hurts. You get stomach ulcers. You get gastritis.
Hmm.
Your body itself hurts because there's so much tension that you can't release. Your joints hurt. Your
Yeah,
blood flow changes. Your whole endorphins change holding on to grief and tension.
yeah, it's an actual chemical imbalance, so it affects the rest of your body.
Rest of your body, and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't feel, and that's why you don't want to eat,
Hmm.
and you don't want to drink, and you don't want to move and be in light, because light has too much, what's the word I'm looking for, light itself has too much, well, I know a lot of people don't want to go outside because that vitamin D makes your body have more energy.
Hmm.
And when you're in that state of grief, you have no energy and you're happy to be in that place, which leads to depression
Yeah.
and anxiety and other mental. Well, then you go on the spiral of, do I want to be here? Do I want to not be here? That's why I chose to go in psychology. Because a lot of things, a lot of people experience, I've been there. I know what it feels like to feel like you're at the top. The rug is pulled from under you, and suddenly you're going down a road you never expected to go down.
Yeah.
And then you talk about dealing with people who don't respect your grief. I had a whole husband, did not respect the grief at all.
Mm.
Was talking to other girls. Your son just died and you've already started talking to girls.
Yeah. Mm. So we know this would affect someone and change them. Obviously, you're feeling fine, as you put it, 40 and fine. Hey. How much do you feel like this has impacted where your writing has gone?
It's impacted a lot in the fact that I can tell my story and
Hmm.
the tears and anger aren't there anymore. It's not as painful as when I wrote them,
Yeah.
because it was hard. Even writing Chocolate Shot, I'm writing a romance story. Nothing about my life was romantic at the time. I wrote I'm Still Standing Here Through Pain.
Hmm.
I wrote My Forever Angel. I wrote Delusional through pain. I put all three together, and it says it's a book called When Life is Lifing. And it's all three stories together in order. That was put together in pain. But my next book on butterfly wings, I'm going to go more into what I went through with having a narcissistic parent, but how I came out on the other side of that,
Yeah.
because I'm not my mom. As a 12, 13-year-old young woman, I made up my mind that if I ever had kids, I would never treat them the way I was treated.
Yeah.
I would love them for being who they truly are. My mom did not like the fact that I was a tomboy. I want 150%. That's 34. That's why God gave me all boys. He knew what he was doing, giving me boys. I could work with a girl, but the moment she's a girly girl, like, your mom, you lost your mother, because that's not your mother. That's not who I am. I am dying right now because I have no football. XFL sucks.
Mm.
I need my NFL back. Give me back my NFL. The only good thing is the Olympics have started or getting ready to start. So I am ready for the Olympics. I'm looking forward to all of that. After that, give me my NFL back. I need it. I love things like anime. I love watching cartoons. I love reading. I like to grab a cup of coffee sometimes and just sit around and do. I shouldn't be doing nothing because I still have schoolwork, but there are days I just take time and I'm just like, can wait till Saturday. It'll get done regardless. I like to play video games. My oldest has all of his systems and I'm about to start getting mine. So I can play Mortal Kombat and Tekken again and Sonic and stuff like that. I love some Crash Bandicoot. Crash is one of my favorites. I like games like they like prefer
Mhm.
adventure games. I like more action games.
Yeah.
Things like that. That's who I am. Growing up, I played out in the dirt with my brother.
Hmm.
My mom would buy me Barbie dolls. I'd cut their hair off. Yep, see, I really don't like it. She buy me dolls. For what? That's not what I'm asking for. Then she put me through etiquette for 3 years. And I hated etiquette. I hate etiquette
Mm.
with passion. I hate it. But I can set a table. So if I ever, married somebody who had dinner parties, I know how to host one. And I know how to sit like a lady, quote unquote, and stuff like that. I hated etiquette.
I don't blame you. I did too. I didn't
Oh,
go through as many years, but I did have a couple courses.
my mom put me through it and she did the book on the head thing and how to
Mm.
walk properly. And I was, no, no. But then when she got sick, it made it worse.
Mm.
And I don't think some people, there are a number of books and stuff, but they're more on the psychological side. And I do want to add some of the psychology, but I also want to tell this story again from an 11 to 16-year-old young lady who watched her mother go into mental illness, and the woman she knew before stopped existing. And how
Yeah.
hard it is, and how that's a grieving process. And that's a grieving process that's hard on a teenager to an adult because you're always asking yourself, will she ever change?
Yeah.
It's not even will she even change back because you've lost that person. But will she ever change from the person that she's become? It's been 29 years, hasn't changed.
No. And there, I think that that has a lot to do with what we were saying earlier about the difference in the ages that, like the time frames that someone was raised, and the mentality behind that. And that's why one of the things I find really beautiful is that the millennials and younger are really, really focusing on mental health, not just, you know, as the older generation say, emotional people, but in
Yeah.
whole, taking care of yourself. I'm seeing more and more writers talk about their journeys and the things that they write about and implementing like men's mental health in general, things that were once taboo, talking a lot about loss. And I feel like it's really important that those things are incorporated, not just into what are considered nonfiction and self help books, but into just anything when you're
Mm-hmm.
writing, because a romance can have, a mental health awareness checkpoint, just a
Mm-hmm.
reality of somebody's got anxiety or they're dealing with a loss of some sort. And not only does it give that story, um, I would say, a little bit of a flourishing, but it helps other people aware that, like, be more aware that they can come to terms with those things and
Mm-hmm.
involve their significant other, and
Yeah.
not everyone is going to turn them away.
Yeah. And
We are no
nowadays,
longer the generation.
I was gonna say having sons, I deal with that with them often. I
Hmm.
always have that because I have an open door policy. So anything you want to talk to me about, come to me.
Yeah.
That's the first thing as a parent. Keep an open door policy with your kids
Hmm.
because I had an open door, but I didn't have an open door growing up. So there was just certain things you couldn't talk about. You can talk about everything with me.
Yeah.
From girls to what's on your mind to how you feel. This allows young men to have good emotional intelligence
Hmm.
because I've taught them when they're angry, breathe before you talk.
Yeah. We're no longer the generation that says you can't have feelings. Boys
Mm-hmm.
have to be tough. Boys don't talk about their emotions. That's not something I have to remind, myself every once in a while, like, it looks different because his brain works different.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that has to do with he has ADD and I have ADHD. And it's just one of those that it
Girl.
is, it is a feisty combination, let me tell you.
Girl, I got one with ADHD, and I think the middle one do too. The younger one, he get a pass. I don't think he has either ADHD or ADD, but them that big one in the middle one.
Yeah. Well, his is diagnosed. He is diagnosed ADD, but mine's not diagnosed, but a lot of the signs and symptoms are
Oh
there.
yeah.
Especially for a female, it's highly undiagnosed as
Mm-hmm.
is because the signs look different. One of them is being extremely talkative and then having these bursts of energy. I go through manic cleaning, like people explain you have when you have ADHD. And I didn't start experiencing that until a lot of people started taking to the internet during COVID. And then I was like, my dad has ADD and it's diagnosed and he takes
Yeah.
medicine for it. So, like,
Yeah.
there is and my younger brother was diagnosed with ADHD and then it evolved just into ADD as he got older.
Yep.
There's no reason why there isn't a 50-50 shot, probably more than 75% that I have it. And
Yep.
my
My
my younger
oldest is
sister,
diagnosed
yeah,
ADHD. My middle self-diagnosed. He said he has 19 out of 26 symptoms. It was funny because last week for class, not last week, week before last for class, we had to do an assessment because one of my last courses this semester is testing and assessments. So
mhm,
we're learning how to do an assessment on the young people or that we're supposed to see from the tests that are given. And this kid hit every marker for ADHD. But the problem is he's a male.
yeah.
We don't get the notice that we should get when it comes to ADHD because we overcome. We were talking about that last night during group, our church group, because women overcompensate.
Hmm.
Where we have ADHD on the opposite end, we're extremely intelligent. We work harder.
Yeah.
So our symptoms are not as noticed. A lot of us have been in gifted or somewhere close to it. We've
I
been
was close.
extremely hardworking when it comes to school. Like for me, I didn't really study in school,
I didn't either.
which people hated. Go
Yeah.
back and hear it real quick. Oh, for real? Okay. You
Yeah.
can say it on Monday, give me a test on Friday, and I passed the test. And all I did was go back and read it one more time Thursday night. or Friday morning to
Yep.
make sure I knew what it was. And I didn't memorize things as a whole, I memorized pieces.
Yep.
Well,
And for
for
me,
us,
there was only one class that I ever really had to study for, and it was like a pre-calculus, and it was because I didn't take the advanced class prior to it. So I was legitimately missing large pieces of the
pieces,
puzzle.
yeah,
Once I figured out the pieces, I was like, oh,
I got
my
it.
grade went up. Yeah, I got it. Like,
Yeah,
it's going to take a little bit of work to make sure I know this material, and it was literally just, I spent 4 days with a teacher that I trusted who knew how to teach me.
yeah,
And
that's all it
for a
takes.
few, yeah, for a few weeks, we went over and made sure I understood the material because I was so far behind.
Yeah.
And then by the time we got to the end of the year, it was just like, you got it,
Man,
girl.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for us, ADHD looks so different
Hmm.
that I would love to at some point have it where um because definitely going into that PhD program to write journals and things like that. And I would like to have better testing and assessments
Hmm.
for girls so that ADHD is caught sooner,
Yeah.
because a lot of girls who have also have ADHD, once we get older, a lot of times we end up with, unfortunately, controlling or narcissistic men
Hmm.
because of how we are with being extra caring. We're extra doting. We do everything so extra. Shoot,
Yeah.
do extra for me. Take care of me. Do this.
Hmm.
But it came to the realization and the experience of it myself to see and then step back and be like, something doesn't make sense. Why am I still attracting these type of people? And it was, oh, I might have ADHD, huh?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
and also
personally,
an empath. So you had ADHD and you're an empath, and it's just like, I don't like this combination
and
right
that
here.
triangle right there, being an empath, there's another piece of that, being an empath, being ADHD, and having a little bit of autism, just enough to be on the spectrum.
And
That
that is
triangle
that
right
is one
there.
too. Yeah.
Because what people don't understand is typically, one, Asperger's. There are a lot of similar symptoms in the female for ADHD as there are for Asperger's. Asperger's is
Yep.
a piece of the autism spectrum, and it is one of the least diagnosed things on the spectrum. I
It
know I have
is.
a younger stepbrother who has Asperger's.
My
Guess what
oldest
his
believed that
fixation piece
about
is?
him. They said ADHD for him, but the level of intelligence that he has, he used to have issues with not necessarily sitting still. He was bored because he was not
Hmm.
challenged. This boy has been talking well since he was one. He started walking at 7, 8 months old. So he was already advanced. So he was bored.
Yeah.
So when the teacher would send him to third, fourth, and fifth grade classes, the teachers were being funny here. Well, you're in my class right now. Here's what they're doing. And he was capable of grasping it and doing it. And
Hmm.
I was trying to fight for him. Let him skip a grade then. Test him out.
Yeah.
They would never do it. And that's another thing that I
Yeah.
want them to look at too, is not just for the gender part of it, but the biased parts of it.
Yeah. For sure.
Because so much bias. They say there's not as much bias. It's a lot of bias in psychology. It is.
Hmm.
I read it consistently. It's a lot of bias in psychology. It's a lot of bias in research. It's a lot of bias, and they won't admit the bias. It's way too much of it, and it's affecting these younger generations that are coming up. who need these things diagnosed. They need these things helped, and they need these things changed. What I do, where for my PhD program, my
Hmm.
focus is narcissism in Black men. Does it come from nature or nurture, the environment, or the nurture part, their parental, the absence of a
Hmm.
parent, or the overbearingness of a parent? And I've already started
Yeah.
working on the dissertation part of it with a friend. The thing is, just like in most things that happen with Black people or people of color, it's not a lot of research. And
Yeah.
that's the only issue I have
Unfortunately.
with a lot of these journals and things like that, is there's not enough research in certain areas. So even
Hmm.
for medical things,
Yeah. Modern medicine already is based off. It's based off a 6 foot white male. I am not a 6 foot white male. You are not a 6 foot white male.
that's why I hate that
Your sons
BMI
are not
scale,
6 foot white
because
male.
the
I'm like,
BMI scale is not made for a big busted. I wear 40 double D. I have about a 16-inch hip. I'm not small. So why on the BMI scale for my
mm-mm.
5 foot 7 self does he do? Are you saying I'm supposed to be 180 pounds? Baby, if I'm 180 pounds, I look sick.
Right, I'm not eating correctly. That's the thing. It doesn't make sense. When, and that, the correlation between the standard societal views of being small and skinny and a certain skin tone, whether if you're African American or black, it's one of those, you have to have a certain shade, or you're too dark or you're too light. And then if you're white, if you're pale, you're too pale. If you're Hispanic, you can't look like you're white, you can't look like you're Native American. If you're Native American and you've got some white blood mixed in, you can't look too pale, or you don't pass for the standard. You're not allowed to braid your hair if you're not Native American. Or if you're white, you can't have 4C type hair, or you can't put your hair in braids to protect your hairstyle. And it's all of these things. And it's like, we are enough of as a world in whole, bloodlines have mixed enough that no one is one thing. Because my bloodline is Dutch, Irish, and who knows what else. Those two are strong enough as is, Dutch and
Yeah,
Irish. And there's no telling. And I am a Caucasian white woman. There is no
yeah,
telling, because I can tell you right now, my great grandfather had Cherokee or Chickasaw in him. That man tanned like he was an Indian man, but you can't see it in my
yeah,
bloodline, because if I'm out in the sun for an hour, I look like a lobster. But it's in me.
yeah.
It is in my bloodline. I know it is because my great grandmother was a genealogist.
See, I did the
And it's
23
just one
and
of those like
Me,
that.
and it's been beautiful because I knew that my great grandmother was from Haiti, but I didn't know exactly how Haitian I
No.
was.
Yeah.
And the African and Haitian showed up so strong. And when I say the African,
Strong.
the Congo, South Africa, Nigeria,
That's beautiful.
Cameroon, and I'm just like Malaysia, and I'm like,
That's beautiful.
I said, oh, okay, because I've always had this draw to the islands in Africa, and I never
Hmm.
understood it. And even now, I want to go so bad because I feel like if I go, I'll find out what this hole is that I have. It'll be
Hmm.
filled if I go. So hopefully one day I'll go. But my friend Jade, She's from Haiti. Connection made by God, unexpected. Didn't expect it. She's got her PhD already in data analysis. So she's been a godsend for my psychology degree, as is. But her being from Haiti, she has been teaching me Haiti Creole. So when I talk to her,
Hey.
I have to say at least one phrase, or I try to at least say one phrase in Creole every time I talk to her. But see, the
Mm.
thing is, I try to type it out. She says, no, say it.
Say it.
Now I
Yeah.
have to voice record. I don't even know if I'm saying this right, but I'm going to say it because I really want to learn. But when I
Hmm.
felt that draw to the islands, that was before I knew about being Haitian. I just knew it was there and I need to go, or I need to connect with some people from there because this and mess around. Got stationed in California. Most of my girlfriends, St. Thomas, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago. I said, okay, so we're just gonna have a whole island festival here. But then, like I said, when I found the Haitian part of me, it made it make sense to why I gravitated towards them. And you
Hmm.
find, cool thing about psychology is certain characteristics that you have, you gravitate towards people with those same characteristics. You might not
Yep.
realize they have them at that time, but it's like an invisible draw from your psyche. Like your psyche has a radar and it says
Hmm.
you need to be friends with this person. You need to be friends with that person. I don't know if I'd be friends with that person.
Yep. Like calls to
Yeah,
like.
be careful with that person. Now, we do ignore that
Hmm.
radar a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what gets us in trouble sometimes. That's what got me in trouble twice, ignoring that radar that said you don't need to have a man around, and I didn't listen. But when you listen to it, you find some really amazing and cool people. You find friendships that last
Hmm.
15, 20, 30 years. And your friend circle doesn't have to be 15, 20 people.
No.
You can have two or three people, but those two or three people can last a really, really, really long time. Long time. You just have to be.
Are your friends? Are your friends readers as well?
Yes. All my friends have read my
Because
books,
readers
so they give me my feedback.
love a supportive crew.
Yes, they give me my feedback. Sometimes they're my editors. They see things,
Mm.
when you write your book, you kind of just like, okay, cool, I got it on paper, everything. And then they'll go back and they'll be like, hey, this part doesn't make sense. Or hey, you might want to connect this and this. Or hey, I remember this happening like this because they're in the books, but they're not in the books.
Oh.
So they're referenced in the books, but in my books, um, only two of them have names. The
Gotcha.
last one has nicknames, and they're very random. I don't include
Mm.
names for the simple fact of, again, I have kids,
Yeah.
and I don't want certain people in my life to be exposed to certain things. My ex
Hmm.
husband has already accused me of my book, My Forever Angel, smearing him. And I'm just like,
Mm.
sir, your physical, actual name is nowhere in the book. I changed his name in the book. I changed
Yeah.
my baby's name in the book. Now, we did call him Junior. That's in the book. But his actual name is not. I said, okay, if I was smearing you, you come after me for it. You know I'm not smearing you. Now, tell
Well,
the truth about you, that's different.
if the boot
Wear
fits,
it. Just strap it up and wear it. If I wanted to smear the
I'm
man,
telling
I would have done a book.
you.
Believe that. I would have made it so he'd
Hmm.
have never got a girlfriend ever again. He's not worth it.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna put him where he needs to be. I'm not gonna do it for her. I'm gonna let her do it for herself, but she can do it probably way, way worse than what I can. Because I actually care about people's image enough to the point of where I don't
Yeah.
want to smear anybody like that. It's not worth
No.
it. That's too much energy for me.
And I feel like for any writer, like obviously their inspiration is going to come from things that they've experienced, things that they've witnessed, people that are around them, people that have been around them. So I mean, it would be really hard for, even though you're not naming him, those experiences are going to bleed into what you're writing, even if you're writing something completely different.
And I don't think
There
that
is
was
that.
realized by him. Is I can't tell the
Hmm. Yeah.
story without telling your part in it because I
Hmm.
was married to you. That was our child. When I wrote Delusional, that
Hmm.
was our marriage. That was our life. No, I don't say your
Yeah.
name in it, but you're going to see yourself through how I
Yeah.
saw you. I'm not going to
Hmm.
speak on how you saw you because how you saw you would be different. But the you
Right.
I saw, I let that you exist too long in my life.
Hmm.
And I had to let that you go because you didn't want to change him until I told you I didn't want to be with you anymore. Now you want to fix him. That's too late. I spent
Yeah.
14 years.
And even at that point, at this point, like you said, you've moved on. You're writing from your into going into your healing, from your hurt going into your healing. So it's no longer about him. It's about you. It's about the people that you're trying to help, potentially help when they read it. Is it has nothing to do with any of that. And that's why I said I really love that people are writing from their mental health journey. They're bringing in mental health into these, because there's another author that I see where she's got a series going on, and one of her female main characters, but anyway, she writes about this story, and the female main character sleepwalks.
Mm,
And she has to talk about how the male main character is the handyman of the town, one of the founding members' sons, and he is one of those people that everyone looks
mm-hmm.
up to. So he's pretty much always on call, always being
Always
needed, an
available.
empath like us. Yep. And so he has this pressure of having to deal with being the one that everyone depends
Mm-hmm.
on, being the one that everyone needs something from, and feeling like he owes something to everyone because his family is the town's founding
Mm-hmm.
family. And then trying to sit with, this woman that I'm falling for has had such a traumatic past that she has started sleepwalking when she has
Mm-hmm.
nightmares, and trying to protect her and take care of his duties, and take care of the town. And that mental health aspect of, like, he stopped taking care of himself. He started neglecting himself to take care of
Mm-hmm.
others, which is typically a trait you see in females, but the fact that it was
The
brought out in
male
a
is
male,
definitely different.
and the
Yeah.
perspective of, yeah, and especially when it comes to the perspective of, men are taught that you are a provider. Above all else, you provide everything for your
Mm-hmm.
woman, for your family. And just that aspect of getting to see that from the male perspective, getting a feel of how that looks on the other side. as a woman, it really helped me understand, like, you know, we put a lot of pressure on
We
men to
do.
provide.
We really do.
And not all, and that's not to negate the pressure that we have as females to take care of the house. Like, traditional roles are oftentimes forced upon us, or we voluntarily taking them thinking it's our responsibility. Um, but just, it made me really realize how those societal gender roles don't have to be that
No, and they
way.
don't
And
always
so
have to
when
be
you're
that way. For me, it's one of those
right,
things where I don't mind a gender role as far as, yeah, taking care of the house, yeah, taking care of the kids.
hmm
But I don't
hmm
believe it's solely my role.
right,
I believe
yep,
that one day, if I do get married again, he's going to do 50-50. He's
hmm
going to pour just like I pour. My dad was that
hmm
way. He poured
yep,
just like I was homeschooled for the first 7 years of school. My dad homeschooled just like my mom did. Even though my mom did
hmm
more of the homeschool, my dad still poured in us for homeschool. His was during the summer mainly. During the summer, we went
yeah,
on family vacations. We went on family trips. We went to zoos. We went to museums. We went to theme parks. He made sure that we weren't just getting education during the school year, it was during the summer
hmm
also. And I feel like we have gotten to a point where gender roles aren't as much skewed as
hmm
much as forgotten what to do.
yeah,
On Instagram and Facebook, I see some of these dudes come after women so hard on stuff. It's
hmm
our fault. And that's why I want to do my PhD the way I do. Because I
hmm
believe we're hated to a point,
yeah, I get
but
that.
not us in particular, if that makes sense. They feel a certain way towards their mom.
hmm
And that how you
I
grew up respectful part of her would not allow them to attack her the way they want to. So
hmm
we catch strays.
I actually, I read somewhere, I don't remember if it was um just a article or if it was actually out of a textbook or something, but I did read somewhere that women typically seek out their fathers in a
Mm-hmm.
way whenever they're looking for a male or a companion. And so it was one of those. I didn't realize how true it was until I did get married and I started seeing some of the same mannerisms and some of the same
Mm-hmm.
traits. And I realized that because my dad is one of those people. He's one of those people where, like, he'll tell you,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm a good person to an extent. I will be an a-hole if I need to. I'm going to pick on you. I'm going to make sure that you're tough enough to endure what the world and the reality is, but I'm still going to have that soft
Mm-hmm.
side of, you can always come to me. I will always be your dad. You're my baby girl, that kind of thing. And I've started seeing that in my husband where, like,
Sorry, I don't know who
I've
cut my
started seeing that
water.
in my That's good. I see it in my husband a lot where, like, he'll tell me, you're extremely, extremely book smart.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are a lot of things that you don't think about. Like, for example, going to the grocery store by yourself. It's not safe for you to go as a single woman by
Yeah.
yourself. Like, even though you're not single, like, you traveling somewhere by yourself is not always safe. And when you go, you have a tendency to tunnel vision and
Mm-hmm.
stop necessarily paying attention to all your surroundings. And so he's gotten that protective instinct of, he's drilling into me whenever I go somewhere, watch your six, pay attention to what's going around you. And sometimes it comes off as if he's kind of being a hard ass. And I'm like, I get what you're saying. I hear
Mm-hmm.
you. And I'm starting to open up a little bit, but it's become one of those, he's like, you don't pay
Mm-hmm.
attention. And I'm like, no, I just don't pay attention to the things you're telling
Yeah,
me. Like, I
I
pay
pay
attention to stuff
attention to
around me,
other
but I'm
things.
tired of,
Because you're,
I'm tired of hearing it from
I
you.
talk to you so often. Yeah, my middle does that. I'll be talking to him or fussing at him about something, and I can tell when he's turning me off because he'll start
Hmm.
fidgeting. And then he'll start doing that 1,000 yard stare. And it's like, why am I still talking to you? Because you're not listening anymore. You've
Hmm.
told
I literally just told him last night, I said, listen, you're starting to get like a cat. And he was like, what does that mean? And I was like, when I'm trying to give you attention, you're too busy doing whatever
me.
you want. But then when I'm done trying to give
Now
you
you want all the
attention,
attention.
all of a sudden you want me to give
That's
you
our
attention. I
cat.
was like, I am
Yeah.
actively doing something else. Actively picked up something else. I'm doing the dishes. I'm reading a book. I'm playing on my phone, watching a video, and all of a sudden you're like,
Yeah.
babe, babe. I'm like, no, you had your
Yeah. When
chance.
I wanted to show you attention, you didn't want it. You don't get the attention
Nope.
now. I done took my attention back and I put that effort into something else. You'll be all right. I'll pay you attention later
Yes,
or
yes.
tomorrow because I'm all attention out now. No.
Hmm. One of my friends explained this to me in the case of saying you have spoons.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
And she was like, you start every morning with a certain number
Spoons.
of
Yep. The
spoons
spoon
that you can
theory. Yep.
use. Yeah, your tools that you can use to help you get through the day. And by the end of the day, the people who typically have things like anxiety, ADHD, ADD, OCD, some sort of mental, not necessarily disability, but some sort of something, mental health matter going on, by the time they get to the end of the day, they probably only have one or two spoons left because they have tried to help themselves cope through so much else throughout the
Mm-hmm.
day. They've got maybe one or two left. And I was like, that explains so much because I don't work a physical job. I work a mental job. You know, I'm part of a tech call center person on top of all the extra things that I do. So at ADHD, I'm going to pack as much as I can onto my, anyways,
Girl, you
besides the
be
point.
doing it.
And so, I get home and I'm about conversationed out. I spend the majority of my day conversation with anyone and everyone, my job, the people that call in that need help, and I'm tech support. So typically, I don't want to do anything. I'm just like, I'm going to make dinner, I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to just like disassociate.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten good at that one. When I take my break, between homework and stuff, I do a disconnect. There are times where it's
Hmm.
just like people will call me and I'll send them the voicemail or I'll cut it off. And don't let me be messing around watching a K drama. Why are you calling me? Why? Like, you don't interrupt the K drama because if you interrupt, you're gonna miss something. And I hate having to go back and then rewatch
Hmm.
again because now I done missed where she got. Why is the theme somebody drugging somebody, trying to get somebody and take them from somebody that they pick because they want them and then they're not good enough for. But it is
Yeah,
better than a soap
yeah,
opera. I can
yeah,
say that. Soap operas take too long to develop. Okay, John. The only problem with me is
yeah,
that it takes too long before the protagonist is strong enough to actually stand up for herself. I don't like that
yeah.
sometimes. I'm like, girl, if you don't hit her, and hit her. Hit her. Please.
Just
Yes. She just backhanded you and you okay? And you gonna stand there as her man and let her back.
yeah,
But it
yeah,
be
yeah.
some good looking Asian dudes up there though. I've
Very
never dated an Asian guy, but
I would.
I would. I said,
Heaven forbid something happened to my wonderful man, but
yeah, you got a husband. I'm
I would.
free. I'm a look, not touch for now.
I can still look at the menu. I just can't
Yeah,
order.
see, I can look and I can put in a special order.
It's just appreciating,
Yes.
okay?
I get it. I got it, girl. I got it.
Let me tell you what, I like to watch Criminal Minds and SWAT.
I love some
Let me just say for the
Criminal Minds.
plot.
Yes. And the new season is coming out next week. And you talk about somebody who is so happy because that is one of my favorite. It used to be Law and Order. But once I started watching Criminal Minds, and then I started
Hmm.
these psych classes last week. I mean, last week, but
I'm
last
telling you.
year, because this week here, it'll make a year since I've been in school. When I started these psych classes, Criminal Minds, Law and Order made so much
Yeah.
more sense. So I'm sitting there and I'm like diagnosing the criminal before they even get to
Hmm.
the
Yep, yep.
conclusion of it. It's just like, yeah, he got a form of psychosis.
I haven't watched anything past when Shamar Moore left.
They're pretty
Um,
good. They have some really because they brought Emily back.
yeah, that's
They
true.
did, and
I watched a couple.
When Penelope left, they
I don't know that I'll watch past that.
they didn't. The season after she left was it was whatever. But now they got everybody coming back, but Shamar Moore's character and the guy who played Reed.
Matthew Gray Goobler. Oh my
Yeah, and I was
gosh.
not happy about that. Even if Shamar Moore didn't come back, that was cool because he got SWAT. But the guy who
Yeah.
plays Reed, it was just like Reed is kind of like Shamar. They're like those base characters that you're kind of like,
Hmm.
especially with him being the really smart one out of the group. How do they balance that? And I was mad about how they
Yeah.
did him and JJ. That made me mad.
Hmm.
I
Him and JJ deserve to be together.
and do and do. I wanted them when she married that dude from New Orleans. I was like, no, you like
Let me tell you
Reed.
what.
What are you doing? But I guess that's
This man, okay. This man, the Jay Harrington, the one that plays, we're talking about
mm-hmm,
SWAT, the one that plays Sergeant
mm-hmm.
K. Let me see if I can find this picture.
Oh, he's very handsome for
Mm,
him, and the guy who plays Rossi are handsome for older guys, but not as handsome as Shamar
I,
Moore.
I,
Shamar Moore is. I don't think that dude has
okay,
ever been
listen.
ugly,
He doesn't.
ever.
I find myself saying this about a lot of my colored friends, but you guys do not look your age. And I love salt and pepper. I love salt and pepper. But on my colored friends, there's just something about the way that you guys always look 10 to 15 years younger. And I'm just like, I, I would get myself in a lot of trouble if I was a single woman.
How you think we feel? I had a literally when we first moved because we just moved here to Texas, so we've only been here
Hmm.
since October. For Veterans
Love Texas.
Day, I took myself out to eat because it was free at Chili's.
Hmm.
Girl, why a 29-year-old was trying to talk to me?
Hmm.
I said, sir, I am
There is no
almost
shame
40
here.
years old. My son, the oldest one, is not that much younger than you. My middle, you could not be a stepdad to my middle because that would have meant you were 16 when he was born. No.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am 5 years younger than me, 5 years older than me. That's my
Hmm.
limitation. It used to be now when my 20s it was different. When I hit my 30s it was different. Now that I'm at 40 it's even more like the gap got smaller
Yeah.
because the intelligence and the maturity of these men got worse.
Oh yeah.
So I have to have these limits because if I don't, especially at 40 right now, men up to 45, no lower than 35. At some point, you got to have at least some part of your life together. And you
Yeah.
just can't be, and I trust, don't get me wrong. Like a man that look good. But I don't want to just have to look at you all day and that's it.
Yeah.
That's good for the short term. That's good when we go on a date. Yes, let's sit there. You look so good. I know I didn't hear anything you said. Not anything. Just keep talking. That's what we're gonna do right now. But what do we do past that point?
Yeah,
You
after.
know, and this going through that healing part has made me look at dating different.
Hmm.
Because now when I have guys like get in my inbox and after two sentences, well, what do you do for a living? Mind my business. What do you do for a living? I don't want that part in the relationship yet or in the conversation
Hmm.
yet. Get to know me as a person, get to know who I am. And then at some point, when we're actually in a relationship and we're actually dating, then we can talk about what the other one does. How does the other
Yeah.
one provide for themselves? How would you provide for me? What would I provide for you? You're looking at the table already, and they ain't even a table. Well, what do you
Hmm.
bring to the table? Nothing, because you don't have a table to put anything on. The table is empty right now. We haven't even
Yep.
started with an entree.
Yep.
There's no chips, no dip, no set, nothing. But you want to jump to a main course. What do you do for a living? I
Hmm.
mind my business and drink water and try to exercise at least twice a week.
Mm.
It's
No,
this
something else.
water out here. You're blessed to be married, sis. Because the water out here is
Mm.
filthy. It ain't murky. It is disgusting.
I know we're stuck with a lot of hookup culture. I have single friends, and it's a 50-50. If you're either like married and good, or you're single and you're struggling. And I feel bad because it is very much hookup culture. It is just we can't have conversations. It's just that we're going to,
Do what we do,
mm,
and then we're gonna go our separate ways. And I'm like, I've never been that person. I've always wanted longevity. I've always been
mm-hmm,
a longevity type person. I'm not that wham bam, thank you, ma'am. No.
nope,
I want a
neither.
relationship. I want to go on
Mm-hmm,
dates. I want to have stupid conversations. I want to talk about did you see the game? And for the next 45 minutes, we've done better commentary than the host of the game and the reporter did. Did you see this play? Did you see that play? Did you see when he broke his ankles?
yeah.
Yes.
Text me your weird hypothetical questions
Yeah,
that
that
don't
don't make
really mean anything,
sense.
but that make me
Yeah.
think.
Would you eat raisins if they weren't brown in color? What if they were purple? The random
Right. Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
if a lizard ran backwards, would it be running forward still? Stupid stuff.
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm going to text my husband that later.
Things like that. Just fun things, getting to know each other. And people
Hmm.
are having those one night wham bam thank yous, and now 9 months later, you got a whole nother problem.
I feel like part of that problem, though, is that um, most people are starting dating when they're young, like teenagers. You're starting dating, but you're not really going on dates. You're not really having supervised dates with your parents where you sit down and you talk and you get to know one another. And when you get into your 20s and you start actually trying to do that, you realize that it takes work.
And this is why I take
And then
my
once
sons
you
at
realize,
least once or twice a month, all three, and we go out
mm-hmm,
on dates. We go out and
yep,
we eat and we have conversations, and they know how to sit at the table and they know how to
mm-hmm,
talk. And because if a parent does not show their child how to date before it's time to date, they will struggle when it comes to dating. And when people around them are teaching them to date, it becomes dangerous. It becomes
yep,
very
yep,
dangerous because now you're being pushed instead of learning how to take it slow. So you're
mm-hmm.
rushed.
And see, my parents were really big on that. So, like, my parents would go out on dates, and then my dad would take me on dates, and my mom would go on dates with my younger brother. And we got to the point where once I got into my teenage years, my dad was my parents had already divorced, unfortunately. And my dad had started a new family essentially. Like, he had adopted two of my, not adopted, but he has two younger boys now with my stepmother. He started taking care of them because their dad stepped out, and my stepdad came into the picture, and so I had two sets of parents, and I got to watch them enjoy that. And I was just in and out, working jobs, taking the AP classes, doing sports, and I didn't typically have time to go on dates with my dad because he worked
Oh
nights,
yeah, and
and
that's
I'm coming
opposite.
home
Yeah,
late. Yeah. And so my uncle realized that me and my sister were missing some of those connections, and I actually went to him and I was like, "You still take your kids out on dates? Would you?" And I'm 16 at the time, maybe. I was like, "Would you take me on one?"
yeah,
And he was like, "Sure, baby girl. I mean, where do you want to go? What do you
yeah,
want to do?" And I was like, "Well, and he was like, "You know what? You think about it. You let me know what you want to do, and that's what we'll go do." And I was like, "Okay." And about a week later, I sent him a message, and I was like, "Hey, Uncle Jay, I want to go to Cracker Barrel and have breakfast pancakes, and we don't even have to do it in the morning. I just want
yeah,
pancakes, and then I want to go out and practice my shooting." Because we're a Southern
yeah,
family, so we have
yeah.
firearms. And he took me to Cracker Barrel. We had pancakes and eggs, and we laughed and had a good time. And then we went out to his in-laws' parents'
Mm-hmm.
house. So not his in-laws' house, but
Parents,
their
yeah.
parents' house. And they have land, and we went out back into the cow pasture, and we took a couple of shotguns and some handguns, and we went out there and shot at cow
See,
patties.
I do that whenever I go
And
home
just,
to visit because my parents are divorced too. So
yep,
whenever
we
I
just
go
cut up.
home to visit my family, I grab my dad and we go out to eat, and we
Yep.
do that. And that's what like I said, I teach my kids because my oldest will be 21 in October. And I want to know that when he has his girlfriend, that he knows how to genuinely spend time. I said, because for a lot of women, that's intimacy for us. That's all we need.
Yep.
Just spend time with us. Date doesn't have to
Yep.
be
Especially for,
expensive. I said, don't let these
yeah,
girls go
especially
this
for a
list,
woman
that
that,
stupid list about going to the Cheesecake Factory and all that other. Don't let
hmm
those girls trip you up. I said, because there are girls like your mama. You can take me to McDonald's.
oh no.
I don't care. You can take me to Starbucks. You can take me to,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
please take me to Dunkin'. I want to go to Dunkin'. I'm not expensive. I am not over
You
the
know what?
top. You spend $10 on
I want you to
nothing.
take me, right, take me to McDonald's, and we'll order off the dollar menu, and then we'll go sit at the local
Yep.
park, and we'll have our food, and we'll cut up, and we'll watch little kids run
Yeah.
around and make fun of them
Yeah.
maybe. because of the way they
Yeah.
run, because they're not
No.
formed yet. Kids run, watching little kids run is funny. Do not come for me,
Yes.
okay? They're not coordinated enough yet, so they look like little giraffes. It's funny. And then once you see the little kids vacate the swings, you go over and you get on the swings together and you just have
Yeah.
a good time.
Just gentle
Swinging, I
conversation about anything. Or here, I'm down the street from the botanical garden. I would gladly go to the botanical
ooh,
garden for a date, and we spend an hour just walking, have a cup of
mm-hmm,
coffee because I gotta have my coffee every day, at least once a day.
me too.
And just having that kind of conversation. And I think a lot
Mm-hmm,
of people lack when it comes to actual dating because they don't know how to. Dating is not
mm-hmm.
I go to
Well,
your
and
house and hang out or you come to my house and hang out, because to me that's not a date. A date for me is no,
mm-mm.
let's go to the movies. Let's go have a boba tea. Let's go and have, like I said, Starbucks or something. Hey, let's go to what's my place? I can't even think of the name of it right now. Um
I love to go to the
where they have
mall and
the
window shop.
game systems and trading cards and
Talking about Dave and
not
Buster's.
Dave and Buster's.
There's a Grand Slam, and then there's
No, it's like a video game store. Uh,
oh, GameStop.
the other one. And I can see GameStop. I'll go
Yeah.
to GameStop and hang out with you. That's a
Hmm.
date for me. I'm not that hard to please. I am so simple. I really am.
Yeah.
My whole thing is making the effort to get to know each other. And I don't.
And part of that is also one of those they get caught up in um, only fictional characters do that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not
not
that's
real
not how the
life.
real world
No, that's
works.
exactly how
Yeah.
real life
No.
really works. Like, I
Hmm.
dated guys before who actually put some kind of effort before I met my second husband, who actually put effort. Like, one guy for Valentine's Day, he brought me a necklace and then he took me to the House of
Oh.
Blues down in San Diego and we went to a Common concert. Not expensive, not over the
Mm-mm.
top, just fun. Take me out on a date that I would take myself on.
Go to Walmart, Joann's, Marshalls, somewhere like that. Get a couple of yards of fabric, of two different types of fabric. You pick out one, and you pick out one you know she'll like. And then go to the park or someone's house and cut little 1 inch slits down each side and tie them together in a double knot. And you've got a blanket you guys just made together.
And arts and
That's
crafts
like a
are
three
so
hour date.
simple. I would love to go to a sip and paint.
It's
You
so
know what
much
I'm
fun.
saying? Something, or we go to an ice cream parlor. Because being in Texas, it's plenty of
Hmm.
ice cream parlors. Go to the book. Please take me to the bookstore.
I'm
Look,
saying.
we can go to Barnes and Nobles. We can go to we can go some. There are places we can go to Chili's first and get a 2 for 20,
Yeah.
a 2 for 25, a 2 for 30. I gotta do 2 for 30 because I gotta
Hmm.
have the ribs. And just fun and simple, inexpensive, really inexpensive things. And they're making it much more complicated than what it has to be. And it
Yep.
bothers me because it's just like, it feels like the gentlemen are disappearing.
Yeah.
And I wish those
Well, and
people.
there's a correlation there. There is a correlation of um, the normal, what is considered the nuclear family unit,
Mhm.
and now what has happened is we no longer have that nuclear family unit, and um, these men that have not had active father figures in their life no longer know how to treat women
And this is why
correctly,
my
no
dad
longer
is
know.
very active when it comes to my sons. I make
Yeah.
sure that they have male figures between my dad and my church, some of my
Hmm.
male cousins. My brother is not here right now, he's overseas. But when he gets back, him, I make sure my sons, and I think that's a problem for a lot of single mothers, is
Hmm. It's hard to find somebody to
yeah, they
trust.
lack trust so much because the men in their lives have not been there or have left, that they have a hard time allowing a male to come in that they're not with to say,
Hmm.
hey, I want to take your sons to baseball games and football games and teach them how to date and things like that. Yes, this world is trashy. Don't get me wrong. It's very trashy. So, yes, you have to be
Yeah.
careful, but don't be so careful to the point of where your children lose out on top of it. Give them that opportunity to learn
Hmm.
how to date, to learn how a man is supposed to treat a woman and a woman is supposed to treat a man. Give them that chance to have
Hmm.
that male figure in their lives. And moms, actually have conversations with your kids. Have
Hmm.
conversations. Because when you're not having conversations with your kids, you end up with kids who sometimes don't like you or don't want to be around you. Especially if some of these women, because I've seen some of these women, they're creating some of these men because they're bitter towards the man that helped create the child. Stop
Hmm.
holding that bitterness and let that go. Those babies didn't ask to be here, but they're here. Don't be bitter towards those
Yep.
kids because of something that didn't work out. Okay, it didn't work out.
Yeah, that's not the
That's
kid's
not your
fault.
child's fault. Pull your bootstraps up and parent your child. Guide them.
Hmm. Oh, I think that's it. We may have to wrap up.
Yeah.
I think we're about out of time.
We made great time. Thank you for having me.
Thank
This was
you.
amazing.
It's so much fun.
Yes, I love this. This was everything. Thank you so much for having
Yeah,
me. Thank you for the
of
conversation.
course.
Y'all, my books are all on Kindle Unlimited for free.
Do it, do it, do
One
it.
book can be purchased for free. I'm still standing here all the way. 99 cents if you want to permanently buy My Forever Angel. All my books come in three forms. They come in ebook, they come in
Yes.
paperback, and they come in hardback. I am working on making them into audio. That's going to take some time. Because it's
Insider
taking
tips. We love them.
time. But once I get a little break in between, I work on putting them into audio. So there'll be audiobook also. So yeah,
I can't wait
I
to.
can't either. I'm looking forward to that because that's going to be fun. It's going to make the book that much more interesting. So
Hmm.
yeah. And you all feel free to send me messages. And please, when you read the books, please leave me a review. Let me know
Yes,
what you
reviews
think,
are
what you
important.
feel. I really want to know, good and bad. I don't care either way. Just let me know how you feel about the book because that lets me know if it's reaching you the way that I wrote it to. And I do believe that these books are
Yeah.
really going to change lives and change thoughts and really help not just women, but men really figure out who they
Hmm.
are. I tell people all the time these books are written for three different reasons: before you see the situation come, while you're in the situation, or after you've been through the situation and now you see what happened. So these books can reach you three different ways: Prayerfully, it's before you get to the situation, because if you're in it or you just got out of it, they might sting just a little bit more. Thank you, Natalie, again for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me. I had
I
a good
had a
time.
wonderful, amazing time, and we're going to keep in touch.
Yes,
Definitely.
we are.
Yes.